Coming up around the nation, Howard University is expected to leave the MEAC after next athletic season, and it could mean the death knell to the conference as a football place. Also, we take a look Black in the Day from our friends at MLBBro.com with an all-time great from Morgan State, who was once Jackie Robinson's roommate and made it all the way to the Hall of Fame. The bus is parked in the DMV and we're ready to roll. Thanks for hanging out. It's the HBCU Sports Nation and we're tipping off now.
Black Island move. Ride, come on. Black College, stand up. HBCU.
Greetings, boys and girls. It's the HBCU OG Mark Gray. Thanks for hanging out for another quality podcast offering, at least according to me, of the HBCU Sports Nation, place that gives you HBCU sports knowledge straight, no chaser. We got a lot to get to in a little bit of time, so let's kick off. And we'll start in the Mideastern Athletic Conference, where days after President Wayne A.I. Frederick announced he was retiring as Howard University's president in 2024, the athletic department apparently has decided that would be time for them to bolt from the MEAC. Our good friends at HBCU Game Day first reported last weekend that Howard appears to be ready to join their two former MEAC rivals who just bolted from the Big South to a rebranded version of the Colonial Athletic Conference, which is hemorrhaging right now themselves after the loss of James Madison. Remember, North Carolina A&T also bolted the MEAC for the Big South and will be following Hampton to the CAA. So 3 MEAC schools now headed to the CAA, and they also have built-in rivalries. Of course, William & Mary is still down there, and you'll recall Mike London was head coach at Howard University, and while at Howard, when he signed Kalen Newton, they went out to Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV for those of you who are cool and paired like that, and they beat them in that opening game. London went back to his alma mater, so that's a great rivalry matchup for the Bison, the Aggies, and the Pirates. Plus, you figured that the Pirates would continue to play in the Battle of the Bay Classic against Norfolk State. Now, sources close to the Howard University program say that they have been aggressively exploring their options for the last 3 years, despite alumni concerns and objections about potentially moving from the MEAC and HBCU conference to a PWI conference. But Howard had been exploring their opportunities for quite some time. A former coach tells me that they initially made their first overture to the Patriot League somewhere around 2018 or 19. That source tells me that one of the stumbling points for them not getting in the Patriot League at that time where they were facing APR violations, and the Patriot League builds itself as the second strongest academic conference, competing in Division I, just behind the Ivy League, so that didn't fly. Apparently, an inquiry into the Northeastern Conference didn't work, but this seems like it was the right time for them to bolt. Now, let's be real for a second. The ripple effect of Howard's reported decision would be seismic in the HBCU sports world. Consider, if you want to use the European soccer model as an example, the SWAC now is the HBCU premiership. Everybody outside the SWAC is pretty much relegated to what's left. which brings to mind the MEAC, with only now 5 teams that are competing in football: Morgan, Delaware State, South Carolina State, Norfolk State, and North Carolina Central. So now they have to find within the next couple of years either home for those places or they all become independent, which then means they have to fend for themselves to field schedules. Howard was one of its charter members in the 1970s, and for the brand that is Black college football, because Howard was one of the charter members of the CIAA also. Historically and pragmatically, it would appear to be a bad look for the MEAC at a most inopportune time. Anyway, stick and stay. We got a lot more for you coming up as the HBCU Sports Nation continues.
1, 2, 3, hit it! Black College move. Ride, come on! Black College, stand up! HBCU!
Our good friend from HBCU Game Day, Stephen Gaither, joins us right now. He broke the story last weekend on the pending move, apparently, of Howard University away from the Mideastern Athletic Conference, now bolting for the CAA. Stephen, thanks for taking the time to join us. Simply put, is the MEAC now officially done as a football conference?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on, Mark. We go way back, to the early days, so I definitely appreciate it. It's nobody wants to put that final nail in the coffin, but folks are in the vestibule, looking. It's a situation. They've been Howard has been pursued by the MEAC for. I started back last fall is when I heard about it, and even before.
You mean the CAA?
The CAA,
right?
So all these acronyms. CAA
Right.
has been after them at least since last fall, if not before then. Even before Hampton, and then of course A&T came along. Howard is a school that they had targeted. And there was some trepidation. For folks, at Howard about, not wanting to leave the MEAC in a state of, in a worse state than it is, with having lost, marquee programs such as Hampton, such as North Carolina A&T, such as Florida A&M University, as well as others. And so, this is a situation where they kind of waited things out. Obviously, they brought in Hampton, and then they brought in North Carolina A&T. But, if you talk to some people as industry insiders, those may not necessarily say that they were bait for them, but Howard is one that they've been wanting all along. And having, 2 programs that it sees itself as a peer in a lot of ways, in North Carolina A&T being a public, top public HBCU with FAMU, I believe, as well, but the largest for sure. And then Hampton being, Hampton, what it's been. I think it's a situation where they kind of found themselves, looking at the neighborhood, and that's no disrespect to everybody else who's still in the MEAC, but just kind of the way that it looks, on the surface. And what neighborhood they wanted to be a part of.
Have you been able to find out why Howard would make this move, especially, you're talking about a transition in the athletic department that's going to coincide with the transition in the administration of the university. And to me, I'm just wondering, when you had an advocate like Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who was all about sports and the branding opportunities, how big of a setback could this be for Howard moving forward?
Well, I think, you have to look at it in a lot of ways. Obviously, as soon as Dr. Frederick's announcement, the announcement of Dr. Frederick's, position change came up, I posted a story about them being at a crossroads, and that was based off of the things that I have heard from conversations from folks who are on Howard's campus as well as outside of it, and it is I think Dr. Frederick has obviously been a key part of the MEAC since he's been there in 2014. If we go back to 2020 when North Carolina A&T left, and then right after FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, you'll go and see that there was a meeting that the MEAC held with the media, a press conference, and Dr. Dennis Thomas, the former commissioner of the MEAC, was there, but who did a lot of the talking was Dr. Frederick. And so after A&T left, he assumed the mantle over some of the mantles over the MEAC. They do them on a rotating basis, but he got a chance to see, I think, very clearly where the MEAC was, and the state of the schools that were in the MEAC at that point in time. So I don't know how, I haven't talked to Dr. Frederick. I don't know how much that may have influenced his decision about where things were going. But it is rather telling that as he's transitioning out, he's making this move. So what did he see? What did he know? What was the temperature in the room that he gauged that would allow them to finally pull the trigger? I don't know. But then again, as you see, as he's transitioning out, this move is going to take place. So I think it's a lot of folks having it's definitely going to be interesting. I did talk to the president over at Morgan State, Dr. Wilson. I emailed him to kind of ask, what his thoughts were back a couple months ago, and he told me that they were committed to the MEAC. They're a founding member and only ones left and all of that. But presidents talk, and presidents know things that are coming, and it's not the greatest PR move in the world to be the person that really, to a lot of folks, to be the person that really, especially if you're sitting president, to be the person that is kind of viewed as maybe sinking a ship, or at least putting it in a very precarious position. And so I can, I think at this point, and if you go through the Board of Trustees notes over the last year or so, I mean, you've even had you've had discussions at North Carolina Central, you've had discussions at Norfolk State, you've had discussions at Morgan State even about, the landscape of college athletics, about conference affiliation. So I think everybody is looking, everybody has, as the schools have left off and as things are changing, I think everybody's had a contingency plan. We look at even Delaware State back in 2020, we were a Bay of Pigs away from the Bay of Pigs away from from D-Day at that point.
I have an inside source that was a former coach over there. I'm not going to mention the sport, but he told me that Howard had initially made an overture. They were trying to get into the Patriot League, but it was at the time that they were facing APR violations. And with the Patriot League's emphasis on their academic, GPA, they didn't let Howard in because at that particular time, with them facing APR, it just wasn't a good look. I'd heard Morgan and Delaware State associated with the NEC. So these things have been sort of looming right now. And the question really becomes, do you drop football as a conference if you're the MEAC, but you still have enough teams to play basketball? Could they exist as a basketball-only league?
I think that is a possibility. I got to see the particulars about what that would be, but obviously the big thing over all of this, Celebration Bowl. Right. I'm hearing, those folks are definitely paying attention to what's going on because their contract right now is the MEAC and the SWAC. And so, as far as the NCAA goes, I mean, the auto bid situation is a non-factor for them. But there has been some talk, Chicago State is out there. I've been told the vote has been taken, but I haven't got anything official on that.
So Chicago State would be interested in playing a MEAC schedule then, potentially. If do they have football?
Well, they don't have football. They don't have football right now. They have done a feasibility study. And so, they are, my sources in the MEAC tell me they were a couple of weeks ago, they were in the vetting process. So I know that there is life there. I'm also hearing of a Division II school moving up that is not an HBCU that there maybe have been some discussions with. I don't know how deep those have been. So, the MEAC leadership is not sitting there idly by. They've definitely been making overtures to Virginia State, but I have it on pretty good authority of Virginia State is not looking to make that move right now. And I would think that, losing at Howard doesn't help the case for that at this point.
Stephen Gaither, I got from HBCU Game Day, dropping the latest knowledge. Don't forget, check out hbcu.com for all the news that's fit to talk about from around the world of HBCU sports.
Black out and move. Ride, come on. Black college, stand up. HBCU.
What's up? It's your boy Mark Gray in the DMV. You are wherever you are. Let's check out how they did it back in the day on MLBBro.com.
MLB Bro presents Black in the Day.
The HBCU's Underground Railroad to the majors began with the Dodgers legend, who was Jackie Robinson's roommate. Morgan State's Joe Black created a legacy in baseball and in business after doing an internship of sorts. Black joined Robinson and the Brooklyn Dodgers, and after playing with the Baltimore Light Giants, a Negro League team he'd never heard of until he arrived in Charm City after high school for parts of 8 years. When he got the call from the Dodgers in 1952, Black had great success as a 28-year-old rookie, winning 15 games and saving another 15 in relief for Brooklyn. He also became the first African-American pitcher to win a World Series game that same year. But Joe Black was more than just a ball player. He became a vice president with the Greyhound Bus Company and helped launch the Players Assistance Fund to help former players and others in Major League Baseball with expenses they could no longer afford. When the Arizona Diamondbacks launched in 1995, Black was their first community affairs representative. He was also heavily involved in such organizations as the National Minority Junior Golf Scholarship Association. From 1969 to 1985, Black contributed a national column, by the way, which was read in more than 40 Black newspapers and magazines, including Ebony and Jet. Joe Black was an HBCU, MLB bro, and Renaissance man ahead of his time. I'm Mark Gray, and that's how the bros got down black in the day on MLBBro.com.
MLBBro.com, covering black and brown major leaguers.
Upon further review, was Sonia Stills given enough to succeed as the first woman who's presided as commissioner of the MEAC? I don't think so. Let's be real for a second. I don't think that there was anything heinous or malignant about what went down between the seamless transition between Dennis Thomas and Ms. Stills. But the bottom line is, she faces a crisis of epic proportion that, quite frankly, she shouldn't have to deal with. Let's be real for a second. The Hampton University experience inside the MEAC was better for the Pirates than it was for the conference. And while Ms. Stills, who has ties to Hampton probably had nothing to do with the foundation, that led to these departures, which have become an epidemic to the point where they could take the MEAC's life. And this is sad. Howard University leaving right now, you got to remember, if nothing else, in a time where the HBCU brand is so significant and Howard is one of them, if I can make it a SWAC analogy, that would be like Southern or Grambling bolting right now for, say, the Southland Conference, and you have to answer why. When you factor in the cultural experience and the awakening of competing in an HBCU conference, the players have spoken. They're down to do it. You may never have a renaissance like this for blue chip caliber athletes to want to play at a school like Howard. But for a conference to not have a game plan in place to help offset the loss of Hampton, North Carolina A&T, Florida A&M, and Bethune-Cookman is head-scratching. And before the sycophants of Dr. Thomas or the Old Boy Network start pointing a finger at her, you got to realize she inherited the mess that's being, created by the guys. I hope that the ingenuity and creativity of a lady like Miss Stills can at least put a stop in the sinking ship, because the ship is taking on water right now. Steward it to a safe haven, patch up the hole, and find a way to remain as a Division I conference. People say it wouldn't be such a bad thing to drop to Division II. When you don't make as much money as you can in Division I, that's not a good look. And with the opportunity students now face with name, image, and likeness, particularly if you're a Division I student athlete, this now officially qualifies as a bad look. So they didn't do any favors for Miss Stills. Now she has to step up and handle it. But a bird on my shoulder tells me it'll get done. But I don't think we'll ever see an all HBCU MEAC ever again. Reach out to me, Mark Gray, that's spelled Mark with a K, Gray with an A, at The Sports Groove, 24/7, 365 on a computer, smartphone, tablet, however you get your social media groove on. I'm at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, but I promise you, I will spare you the indignity of me twerking, because I probably would break something, and that may break internet visual records. Anyway, till next week, we'll leave the light on for you. I'm Mark Gray. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time as we hit the road along the HBCU Sports Nation.